Now it's night time here at Majestic Aquarium, so all of the lights are currently off. But I just want to touch on a subject which is very simple, but can be very confusing. And what I want to talk about today is light intensity, or the power of your lights, versus the position and combination of your corals. So for an aquarium of this size, these Red Sea lights would be perfect for an aquarium like this. And if you go for lights that are appropriately sized for an aquarium, you want to try and make sure that at least for a period of time in the middle of the day, the lights are running up around 100%. Now most of the day, as the sun comes up or the sun comes down, and as you get a lot of reflection and refraction in the wild, you do not need that sort of intensity for a long period of time. But just having it in the middle of the day is something I highly recommend. But what I want to talk about today is predominantly coral positioning in reference to light source. So, agreeing that these particular lights are perfect for a tank like this. Now, if you went for a smaller light, which would be the smaller size Red Sea lights, or something like the AI primes, it is very common that I'll service an aquarium that is absolutely spectacular, yet the lights are literally half as powerful and half as expensive, yet over a long period of time, the corals are absolutely thriving. So, if you get the correct lights, then you can pretty much place any coral in any position in the aquarium, and you can assume that there's enough light for that coral. But if you go for smaller lights, maybe because you don't have the budget for the more powerful lights, or maybe you just are not interested in focusing on the shallow water corals that require more light, you could easily run this aquarium with something like your AI primes. Now, if you were going to go for AI primes, then you would want to make sure that your higher light dependent corals are in the proximity of the light source. So clearly here and clearly there. It's very common to have bommies in your aquarium and the light source right over the bommies. Now, if you've got smaller lights on the aquarium, you would still very easily be able to have any coral you want in that proximity, any coral you want in that proximity. But then some of the corals that don't require as much light, you could have in the further proximity. Then a lot of corals also don't need much light, and they're the ones that you could have around the fringes of the light source. So once again, choosing corals for your aquarium is very much governed by the lights you have, or you can choose the lights for the corals that you want to keep. And remembering that you can't win them all, because there are shallow water corals that like a lot of light, and there are deep water corals that don't need much light and will thrive literally on low light. Back in the old days, we would just run T8 tubes, and we would have growing, thriving soft corals, morphs, corellas, recordias, and other different corals, and the light that we had was comparatively minute compared to the light we have now. So once again, it's all about proximity from the light source. If you do not have the budget to get high intensity lights, it does not mean that you can't have a thriving aquarium. You absolutely can. You just got to be a little bit more careful of where you position your corals in reference to the light source. So some other examples. This is the Max Spec Razor. Obviously very good coverage over a big wide tank like that. This one is the Max Spec Ethereals. Once again, very good coverage, very good photosynthetic surface area. Whereas this one is your Radions. These are very, very high powered lights, and in nearly every single application on a standard home aquarium, these things are actually turned right down because they're absolutely so powerful. So once again, it's really a matter of what corals you're wanting to put into the aquarium. Something like your acroporas definitely want more light. Something like your LPS don't need anywhere near as much light, and any of your morphs or zoes or anything like that don't need anywhere near as much light. So it's very much a matter of what corals do you get and where do you position them in proximity to the light versus how much do you want to spend. Because what you would spend on, say, an AI prime, you would spend double that on something like this. Then you would spend double that on something like this. So once again, the disproportionate cost is to be weighed up against the flexibility of the results. So in a perfect world, you'd go and spec your lights to the perfect specifications for the tank. That way you can grow any coral in any position. You've also got the full flexibility of the way that you set the light, the way you ramp it up, the way you ramp it down, the way you use it. So in a perfect world, you'd go and get high-powered lights specified for the aquarium. I'm not the world's biggest fan of over-specifying your lights because I don't see any point making the lights more powerful than they need to be. But you can still produce an amazing reef depending on what corals you put in and what proximity they have to the light. Because it is amazing how I will service one aquarium that has literally a quarter of the power of another one, yet both aquariums might be equally impressive. Anyway, if you've got any thing to add, if you have found various lights powerful enough or too powerful, then just put a little note on the bottom of this video, because it's very helpful for other people to share your experience. So what lights have you used that you've been really impressed with, or what lights have you used that maybe you've been disappointed with, and why do you think that was the case? Once again, it's a bit disappointing that I've made this video when the lights are out, but that's the way it is, because I've been working late at night lately, doing my covert night shifts to minimize staff contact. Isn't that fun? Anyway, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and put your thoughts on the bottom of this video.